Hello and welcome to today's Cook With Me video where we are going to be making my very favorite sweet potato recipe. Once I learned how to make sweet potatoes like this, I don't know if I can make them any other way. Sweet potatoes can be delicious in various ways, but this is the best. So what we're going to need today is a 9x13" pan, coconut oil, butter, salt, sweet potatoes, and that's really about it. So fairly simple, but so delicious. So before we get started on the sweet potatoes, we want to put our coconut oil and our butter in our 9x13" dish so that we can begin melting them while we're preparing our sweet potatoes. So this is like the ultimate getting healthy fats in dish, because you're going to have a small coated amount of butter and coconut oil all across the bottom of your dish. So be generous with it. Do not shy away. Do not be afraid. It will make it extra delicious. Might even need some more butter. Let's see. That'll probably be okay. Use up the rest of that. Okay, so generous amount. We want, when this melts, to cover the whole bottom of the dish. So you're using a fair amount. We're going to go ahead. Oven should be preheated to 400 degrees, and we're going to stick this in as it's preheating is fine, because you're just wanting to melt this while we're preparing our sweet potatoes. Okay, so to prepare our sweet potatoes, first of all, you want to try and pick out sweet potatoes that are close in size so that as they cook, they're going to cook fairly similar. So you don't want to have some really big ones and some really small ones. You want to all have them fairly similar in size so that that doesn't become an issue. Then you're going to go ahead and cut them all in half. If any of them have like a little funky end, just go ahead and cut that off. But you definitely want to leave the skin on, and you want to eat it when it's done, because the skin becomes seriously the most delicious part when you're making them this way. Go ahead and cut all of these in half. Just cutting off anything that looks a little funky on the ends. This one has a little bit of a bruised part right there. We'll just take that out. A little bit of a funny in there. This one in half. Okay. And then, once you've gotten them all cut in half, what you will do next is then it looks pretty good all the way around. A little funky on top. Okay, so then what you're going to do is you're going to take a fork and go ahead and poke them generously all over the inside, flat inside, and the outside. So what this is going to do is when we get our butter and coconut oil out of the oven, we're going to lather it and all of that. And so it's going to start to come in through the top, and it's going to crisp up our skin, which makes it so yummy. But then as it cooks, having these holes in the open face side are also going to allow it to soak up all of that butter and coconut oil, and it is so yummy. So make sure you generously poke all of them. Be careful to watch your fingers. I have poked myself doing this, and you're going about it pretty aggressively, so it does not feel good. So be aware as you're doing this. spoons. Sweet potatoes can be really awesome alternative to regular potatoes because they actually process in the body a little bit slower. And so regular potatoes are a bit starchier, and sweet potatoes have a little bit denser nutrient profile about them. They burn a little bit slower, so they can be essentially a better alternative. We eat potatoes occasionally at our house, but we tend to be much more sweet potato eaters than regular potato eaters for that reason. When you're doing the purification program, if you ever have an interest in doing that or have done that, regular potatoes actually are not allowed on it because of that starch factor. That will spike your glycemic range, and so if you're trying to lose weight, you can actually usually get away with eating sweet potatoes, but can potentially have an issue eating regular white potatoes. Okay, so we're about done with all of our poking holes. Our butter and coconut oil should hopefully be melted now. I'm gonna cut these down. Go ahead and grab this out. So, I do have a couple pieces that are not quite melted. I think we're going to be okay. So then what you want to do next, you can see that the whole bottom is covered. So that's what you're going for there. So next what you're going to do is you're going to take your sweet potatoes. Sometimes your butter and coconut oil could have gotten really hot, so be careful at this part. Make sure you don't burn your fingers. And you're going to coat them, and then you're going to leave them face up for this next part. So coat them all over your skins and the face, and then bring them back to face up. And continue coating. You may have to play a little Tetris as you maneuver all of your sweet potatoes into your dish. I usually am able to fit about 4 in a 9x13. I have made a habit of doubling this recipe when I make them because I love it so much, so that I have leftovers. Always a good reminder that leftovers are ideal when you are cooking, because I don't care how healthy you are, no one likes to cook all the time. And so making extra is always the wisest idea. Okay, so once you've got those all lathered, you're going to then go ahead and salt them. And you want to be generous with your salt, because your salt actually is what will help these have this caramelizing effect on the bottom while they're cooking. So when I'm turning this, I'm doing almost like a full turn at each section, because it makes a big difference in how tasty it is. Okay? And then from there, you're going to now turn them face down. Maneuver them in there. And then you want them all sitting in your butter. Okay. And then once they're all sitting in there, you want to salt them one more time against all of the tops. And then that's all there is to it. Fairly simple and absolutely delicious. And we'll go ahead and stick them in the oven, 400 degrees. You do want to go ahead and flip them at about the 25-minute mark, about a halfway mark. So it takes about 40-45 minutes for them to cook. I'll let you know how you know when they're done. It's when they get the caramelizing on the bottom. If you take them out too soon and they don't get that, it is not even close to as much heaven as it could be. So you definitely want that caramelization on the bottom, which I will show you. So we're just going to put them in, set the timer for about 20 minutes so that we can turn them in the butter one more time, let them go for another 20 minutes, and then show you what it looks like after. All right, we're about at the halfway mark for our sweet potatoes, so I'm going to go ahead and pull them out, show you how you turn them, what we're starting to look for, and then we'll put them in for an additional 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes. Okay, so sweet potatoes are bubbling. At this point, you probably want to use something to turn them because they're going to be hot. So you can start to see they're starting to get this caramelization around them. So these actually aren't too far off. We probably could have turned them a little bit sooner, but that is fine. This one doesn't have it so much. So it still is pretty much just plain, kind of that orange color. This one, let's coat it. Same thing, you can see down here, it's almost completely that yellowy color, but up here it's starting to get that caramelization. That's really what we're wanting. Coat this. Same thing on here. This is still needing some time, but this is starting to get it. What happens is that caramelizing, it makes it like candy. It is delicious. So we're going to turn this over. This one, you can see, doesn't really have any of that on it. So that one still needs a minute. So we're kind of getting to that watching it a little more closely phase, but it still is needing some time. This one down here, still pretty much yellowish orange all across the bottom, so that one's still needing quite a bit longer. I mean, 5-10 minutes, quite a bit longer. So what we're noticing, which will happen, this one is pretty much that same way, is that sometimes you'll notice that one side of your oven is cooking a little hotter than the other. So I'm going to put it in the opposite way because all the ones on this side seem to be cooking faster than the ones on this side. Okay, so we flipped them all over, we coated them all again, and now we're going to put them in for about another 5 to 10 minutes, and then they should be close to done and so tasty. You don't necessarily have to pull them out to check them, but I definitely want you guys to see. Your butter will start to turn a darker color. That's completely normal. And so now we're going to start looking at these again. Okay, we're getting really close. So you can see how that caramelizing, that browning is starting to happen all around the sides. So we're going to look. It's getting close. Almost all of them are starting to have it. This one's getting very close. So now we're going to want to keep a really close eye on it because now they're starting to get to where they can go from a yummy caramelizing to you don't want them to get like an overly done or burned. But they're really, really close. Okay, so that's exactly what we're looking for. Getting that browning around the edges. You don't necessarily need to douse them in the butter this time because now we're wanting them to crisp up. So you're just going to leave them, but we're just checking them. So I'd say in the oven we'd want to check them in another 5 minutes. Just make sure they're not getting too dark, but they're all starting to get that brown look. And then I will see you again when I pull them out. We are back with our sweet potatoes. And these are just about perfect. So what you're wanting is that nice brown, almost looks like it's just about to burn right around the edges. And so you just want to see that crusting, a little bit of caramelization around the bottom, and then just right around the edges, just like that. So good. It's kind of that perfect browning. And now, the trick is pulling them out when they look just like that, and then you let them rest for the next 15-ish minutes. And what's going to happen is the tastiest, most magical part. As they rest now, they'll caramelize a little bit more, but they're going to soak up all of this butter and coconut oil, and it's going to mix with the sweetness of your sweet potato and that saltiness, and it's like a beautiful, healthy party in your mouth. So we'll leave this for about 15 minutes. I will be back to see you at that point and show you what the final product will look like, and hopefully you'll just be like mouth-watering, already starting to cut your sweet potatoes because you can't wait to try it. Alright, so we're back for our final look at our sweet potatoes, and this is what we're going for. As you can see, still some butter on the bottom, but most of it is gone. And so when these are ready to go, you just have all of that butter pretty much soaked up right into them. Oh my goodness, it is so tasty. You eat the skin right on them. Do not take the skin off. It's so delicious. You have to try the skin on it. And just cut it up, and they are ready to go. But there you have it. Some extra tasty, delicious, caramelized sweet potatoes. Once you go here, you'll never go back. Enjoy.